Hello, in this C++ programming video, I will be covering nested loops. A nested loop is simply a loop inside another loop. They are perfect for situations where you need to repeat an action within another repeated action. So a nested loop looks like this in practice. So on the outside, we're using the index I, and on the inside we're using an index j. So obviously you do not want the inside index and the outside index to be the same variable because you're going to mess up. So for each for loop especially should get its own index. So let's move on to our first program example. This is a simple multiplication table example. So how this works is the outer loop controls the rows, and then the inner loop controls the columns. So rows is associated with I, and columns is associated with j. Together, they're going to produce a grid-like output. So let's test this program out. Let's compile it and now let us run it. As we can see here, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 equals 3. So the 1 is staying the same. In terms of the first factor, the first factor stays the same on each row, and then the second factor stays the same on each column. So let's move on to our next example here. This is we're going to print out a pattern here. So this creates a right-angled triangle of stars. So let's see what this looks like. As we can see, the first row has 1 star, the second row is 2 stars, the third row is 3 stars, and so on. And then finally, our final example in this video is a combination of different loop types. So we can use the while loop and the for loop in the same program. We just need to make sure that the structure is correct. So let's compile this one. As we can see, this is the output of this program. Again, it's real easy to combine different loops, but you just have to make sure that the syntax is correct and you're avoiding infinite loops. So some best practices here. Usually you want to keep nesting levels low. Too many loops can make code hard to read. And in reality, more advanced C++ data structures would prevent you from having to make many different nested loops. But if that's not the case, then it's usually good practice to reconsider how you're making your code. But for things like matrices, multiplication tables, nested loops are pretty useful. But again, too many loops make the code hard to read. So even something like this, if you're making a school project or something, you want to comment this out. You want to comment each line and show what you're doing. Choose clear variable names like row, column, or simple index variables like I or j. Avoid unnecessary work in the inner loop for performance reasons. So as a practice challenge, write a program that prints a 5x5 grid of numbers starting at 1 and increasing across rows. So you want to make it look, your output you want it to look something like this. So each row has 5, and then you're basically separating by groups of 5. So as a recap, in this episode you learned how nested loops work, some practical examples like multiplication tables and patterns, and best practices for readability and performance. If you found this tutorial helpful, do not forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a comment. Please reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you for watching and have a great day.